What are the 4 things that you absolutely need to know about Seabourn Cruises before cruising with them? I'm Gary Bembridge. This is another of my tips for travelers. I'm here on board Seabourn Encore, and I thought it would be a great opportunity to share with you the things that I think you need to know about Seabourn Cruises, starting with who exactly is Seabourn Cruises. Seabourn Cruises is part of the huge Carnival Cruise Corporation. So Carnival also have brands like Princess, Cunard, Aida, Costa, and Seabourn is their ultra luxury cruise line. Seabourn Cruises, at the time of recording, either has or has announced 7 ships in their fleet. They have a classic cruising fleet and they have now an expedition fleet. So within the classic cruising, they have 3 older ships which are called the Odyssey class ships, and this is Seabourn Sojourn, Seabourn Odyssey, and Seabourn Quest. These ships hold around about 450 passengers and 90% of them have balconies. Then you have the Encore class, which is Seabourn Encore and its sister ship Ovation, and they have 300 suites and they hold 600 guests, so about 30% more guests. They also have 2 expedition vessels, the first of which is called Seabourn Venture, and they're going to focus on expedition cruises, particularly in the polar regions, Arctic and Antarctica. So what is it that Seabourn does that's different to the other ultra luxury cruise lines? I think there's probably 3 buckets of things that they do very differently. The first of these is one of their big flagships, which is Seabourn Square. It's where people go and meet. It's where all of the key functions are. So you have your guest services here, you have your excursions here, you have a very nice coffee shop, which is open all the time, has various snacks. You have a little library here, you have complimentary newspapers which you're going to download onto a device or they print out. There's also some shops nearby here. It's a really big important hub, and they've made it really integral to the whole cruising experience. The second thing is they have a whole lot of partnerships. They've brought on board different experts to fine-tune what they do. First of all, in entertainment, they have a partnership with Sir Tim Rice. He has created a show, An Evening with Tim Rice. When it comes to dining, they have a partnership with a US-based celebrity chef called Thomas Keller. They have a very specific restaurant called The Grill with Thomas Keller, which is a 50s, 60s steakhouse. Then across the other dining venues, they have various Thomas Keller dishes. When it comes to the whole area of fitness and wellness, they have a relationship and a partnership with an American expert called Dr. Andrew Weil. And he's a real expert in mindfulness, meditation, and he's created a whole program which involve lectures, meditation, they involve yoga. Depending on the destination, they also might have some very specific excursions. When it comes to drink, they have a relationship with a US-based mixologist called Brian Van Flandern. And what he's done is he's relooked the whole cocktail menu, so they have a whole range of cocktails which he's specifically created and trained all the bar staff to make. In the cabins, they have a relationship with Molton Brown. So all the toiletries are Molton Brown toiletries, and they have a very specific Seabourn fragrance. One of the most significant relationships they have is they are the official cruise partner of UNESCO. And what they've done is create a whole series of excursions around World Heritage sites or sites of significance related to UNESCO. So you'll find on all the different cruises you go on, if you're going to sites which are UNESCO World Heritage sites or sites of interest, there are UNESCO nominated excursions. What's very interesting, for example, on the cruise I was on, I went on one of the UNESCO tours in Menorca to some of the very ancient sites there. And in addition to the normal guide, we also had an expert archaeologist who's associated with one of the universities who came along that UNESCO tour. The next area which I think they do differently is in the whole area of service. Now, all ultra luxury lines have phenomenal service. I think one of the things that's interesting about Seabourn is they have a slightly more informal approach. So it's still incredibly good service, but they go out of their way to make sure they learn your name and of course your preferences, but it's a slightly more relaxed, informal, chatty kind of service. So it's less stuffy, less formal that you might find on some other lines. If you like luxury, but you like it to be a little more informal, you might actually find that on Seabourn, that slightly more relaxed, obviously very respectful and very high quality of service is more to your taste because it's a little bit less stuffy, a little bit less formal. So those are things that I think Seabourn do that's slightly different, slightly unique. The thing that I think you really need to understand is what is and isn't included in their fares. Ultra luxury lines tend to be largely all-inclusive, but there's always slight quirks and differences. Seabourn is comparable with most of the ultra-luxury lines, although there are some ultra-luxury lines that will include some of the things that Seabourn don't. So let's take a look at the inclusions first of all. Not surprisingly, of course, your accommodation is included. And on the Seabourn ships, you can have very large suites through to, on the Odyssey class, you have some ocean view cabins. On Encore and Ovation, it's all balcony suites. Secondly, all of your food is included, and there's a very wide choice. Encore and Ovation have slightly more choice because it's bigger, so they have more space. So let me give an example of what you can expect. You have the restaurant, which is the main dining venue. You then have the colonnade, which is the more informal dining. You then have, as I'd already spoken about, the Grill with Thomas Keller, which is the steakhouse. With the Grill with Thomas Keller, you can go once during a week-long cruise, and you have to make reservations for that. Probably one of my favorite places on board is sushi, which is on board certainly here on Encore. You can go as often as you want to the sushi restaurant, and there's no need for reservations. In terms of more informal dining out on the pool deck, you can have an informal lunch, sort of hot dogs, hamburgers, that kind of stuff. Every afternoon at around about 4 o'clock, you have afternoon tea on Encore. That was up in the observation bar. And then there is 24-hour room service. So huge amounts of dining options included within the fare. Also on board Seabourn is your drinks are included, so wines, beers, spirits. Most of the premium brands that you would love and expect are included within your fares. So you have an in-room minibar which is included within the fare, and you can have that stocked with whatever you want. Also included in the fare, as you would expect, is all the entertainment. So you have a nightly show in the Grand Salon, which could include that evening with Sir Tim Rice show. It could be guest entertainers or the Seabourn vocalists. They'll perform different variety shows. There's also various activities on board, so you'll have a daily program with the usual activities you'd expect on cruise. You then also have the Seabourn Conversations, which is where they, on cruises, will have a guest speaker or guest speakers talking about the destination and the history of the culture. That's all included. And then there'll be often a whole range of different parties, whether it's the captain's welcome party, pool deck party, sail away party. All those kind of events and activities are included within the fare. You also get access to pretty much all of the facilities on board with one key exception, and that is the retreats. It holds up to 30 people. They have a series of cabanas. You pay a fee to go there, and there you will be able to relax. It's very quiet, it has a hot tub. You can also have a massage up there for an extra fee if you want. The other thing that is a big plus that is included in the fare is gratuities. Even if you go to the spa, gratuities are included. So that's a big plus, knowing that that's all covered. So those are all the key things that are covered. So what's not covered? Wi-Fi is not included, but you can buy different packages of Wi-Fi. On the cruise I was on, which was a 7-day cruise, it was about $240 for Wi-Fi, unlimited Wi-Fi across the whole cruise. Excursions are also an additional cost. Looking at the brochure on the cruise I was on, probably the cheapest excursion you get, which was some of the more simple walking tours, were around about $89 per person. Some of the ones that I did, for example, the 4-hour UNESCO excursion, that cost $159. The 5-hour bike tour that I went on, $189. In Porto Venere, there was a boat and walking tour, which was around about $200. But bear in mind, you're going to be spending sort of between $100 and $200 per person per excursion, I would say, to budget for. Then, of course, there's things that are more discretionary. So if you buy stuff in the shops, if you go to the spa, if you want to go to the casino and gamble, then, of course, laundry, if you want to send laundry away, although you can do your own laundry in the guest laundries on board the ships. So who, in my opinion, is Seabourn most suited for? First of all, the passengers you're going to find on board, because it's an ultra-luxury line, will tend to be well-travelled and, of course, have the money to be on an ultra-luxury line. So you're going to find lots of professional people, lawyers or doctors, or who'd run companies, or from the academic world. So a really interesting group of people with lots of interesting stories, opinions. In terms of age profile, you're going to find that you're mostly seeing people in their 60s and above. Of course, you're going to find younger people, particularly in the more summer destinations like the Caribbean. You're going to find people coming on their honeymoons. You're not going to find many families coming on board. Now, in the key summer holiday months, you will find some kids on board. They tend to be slightly older kids because there aren't kids clubs and there aren't shows and excursions and dining, catering for kids as such. The whole experience is done in English. It's quite North American focused. So you'll find a lot of the quizzes and the way things are done is quite American, because that's the real bulk of passengers. So on board, you're going to normally find a big slug of people from North America. Now, I've seen over the years that I've been involved with or been on Seabourn Cruises that it's really evolving. So on this cruise, for example, there were probably about 50 or 60% were from North America, from the US and from Canada. There were then a big representation, as you'd often find on cruises, particularly I was in the Med, you could find people from the UK, from Australia, from New Zealand. But there was a big representation of other nationalities. There was something like 20 different nationalities on board. Most of the travelers on board are traveling in couples. There are some cabins which do have space for 3 people, but couples is the predominantly thing you're going to find on board. So if you're a solo traveler, is Seabourn for you? Although there are no solo cabins on board the ships, during the course of the year, they normally run special offers on different itineraries for people traveling alone. And they basically slash down the surcharge you pay for single occupancy of a double cabin. Also, they're very good at looking after solo travelers because they do get quite a few on board. So at the beginning of the cruise, they will host an event for solo travelers. So they get to meet all the solo travelers. They can introduce solo travelers to each other. And then also they host lots of tables. So the crew, different members of the crew, whether it's the singers or the cruise director or the engineers, they host tables and they will ask solo travelers to those. So I was actually traveling on this cruise by myself, and I was asked many nights to go to various hosted tables. So definitely there's a focus on helping solo travelers. I hope you found this helpful. I have many more videos about cruising, about Seabourn. So if you enjoyed this one, why don't you watch another one right now?